In this video, we're going to talk about graphing on the Cartesian Coordinate System. Okay, and the Cartesian Coordinate System is a graph that looks like this. It has a y and x axis, which are going to correspond to letters in an equation. All right, and we can graph, generally in algebra, lines on these graphs. So I'm going to go through examples of how to do all those things, as well as graph certain forms and go over certain equations for lines that we're going to deal with in class. On the Cartesian Coordinate System, every single spot has what's called an ordered pair. Okay? And an ordered pair is just a value for x and y that's written like this, in parentheses with a comma separating them. Okay? And that tells us where a certain dot is. So for instance, if I had an ordered pair that was, let's say, 2, 3, I could find that on my coordinate system by going over to the x-axis, this horizontal one, going over 2, and then going up 3 because the y is a vertical axis. That would be my 2, 3 dot. Okay, that's the most simple way to graph on a Cartesian coordinate plane. Okay, but we can also graph lines, and so to do that, I'm going to show you two different forms of an equation for a line. Okay, the first form is standard form. All right, and that's where everything is listed off like this. You'll have a number a in front of the variable x, a number in front of the variable y, and it'll be set equal to another number. Okay, in this case, a, b, and c are just regular numbers, but we're generalizing it, so we're using a, b, and c instead of actual numbers. Okay. The more interesting one, however, is slope-intercept form. Okay. Slope-intercept form is a very specific formatting of the standard form, and it looks like this. Y equals mx plus b. Okay? The m and the b are specific numbers that mean certain things on the graph. Okay? The m is what's called the slope, and that is how much the graph is changing, and b is the y-intercept. So where the graph hits the y-axis, right? The vertical axis. Okay? The slope is a special number. It can be a whole number or a fraction. And basically what it is how much the line is going to go up or down over how much it's going to go over or to the side. Okay? Otherwise known as the rise over the run. Okay, so for instance, if my slope was, let's say, 4, okay, that means that my slope rises 4 and it would run 1. If my slope was 2/3, my line would go up 2, right? It would rise 2 and run 3, go to the right 3. So that's what the slope means. Okay, now that we know what slope and y-intercept is, I'm going to graph some example lines for you. Right? The first one is y equals 1/2 x plus 3. As you can see, it's in slope-intercept form. And the first thing you're going to do is find the y-intercept. It's this number in the back. All right? And that's where our starting point is going to be. So we're going to go to 3 here on the y-intercept. So we'll go up 1, 2, 3, and we'll make a dot. That's going to be the first part of our line. Next, I'm going to use the slope to find the next part of our line. The slope in this case is 1/2. That means I'm going to rise 1 and then run 2 to the left, to the right. So if I do that, I have a second dot now. I can continue to do that over and over again. I can keep going, rise 1 over 2. Rise 1 over 2. I can continue to do that, and I'd make what looks like a line. And so then I can just combine my dots, and that's my line. Okay? The next example is very similar. Here I've got another y-intercept. It's -6. Okay? So let's go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my dot. Okay. This slope on this one is -2. So that means I'm going to be rising -2 and running 1. Okay. When you have a negative slope, the line is going to end up looking this way. Okay. So I'm going to have -2, 1, 2 over 1. Okay, and I can draw my line just with 2 dots. You don't need to have more than 2. Okay? It's nice to have more than 2. It makes it easier for you to get that nice straight line. But if you're not worried about being super neat, you really only need 2 dots to graph. Okay? Notice that a positive slope creates a line that looks like it's going uphill, and a negative slope causes a downhill looking line. That's important. Okay? If you have a slope that is positive and your line looks like this, you didn't do it right. So make sure you keep that in mind. Finally, there are 2 special cases. They're special. Okay? Y equals 2 and x equals 3, these don't look the same, okay, as our slope-intercept form, and here's why. In a y equals 2 graph, that means the slope is 0. X was a 0, and as you can see, if you put a 0 in for this m term goes away. Okay, or the x term goes away. So it just becomes the y-intercept. So on this one, y equals 2, I would go up to 2 on the y-axis, and then I would draw a horizontal line. Because the slope is 0. It eliminates the x. Okay. For x equals 3, that's where y equals 0. Okay? And so it changes things. The slope becomes what's called undefined. Alright? Which means it'll become a vertical line. So you're going to go over 3, and you'll make a vertical line. Those are the 2 special cases that come with graphing lines. Okay, so if you have x equals something, you're going to find that value on the x-axis and draw a vertical line there. If you have a y equals something, you're going to find that number on the y-axis and draw a horizontal line there. So remember, there are 2 forms for graphing a line, the standard form and the slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is going to be the most useful for you when it comes to graphing. Okay? Remember, the slope is the rise over the run. How much is it going to go up or down over how much it's going to go over or across. Okay? When you graph, always go to the right. It makes things easier when you're using the slope. Okay? Don't try moving to the left. It's going to confuse you. If you always run to the right, it'll make the graph right. Okay? Trust me. It just works better that way.